Human mercenary fights through alien death arena to save captured princess. Captain Jake Reeves sat in the corner booth of the Rusty Comet, a dingy bar on the edge of the outer rim. He nursed a glass of synthetic whiskey and tried to ignore the stares from the other patrons. Being human in this part of space meant being seen as either prey or a curiosity. His communication device buzzed. Another job offer, probably. Jake had been working as a mercenary for 3 years now, taking contracts that other species wouldn't touch, escort missions through pirate territory, retrieval of stolen cargo, security work on mining colonies. Nothing glamorous, but it kept his ship fueled and his stomach full. He glanced at the message. The sender was listed as Ambassador Lyra, Zalfine Empire. Jake raised an eyebrow. The Zalfine were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful diplomats and scholars. They didn't usually hire mercenaries. Meet me at Docking Bay 7. Urgent matter. We'll pay double your standard rate. Jake finished his drink and stood up. Double rate was worth investigating, at least. He made his way through the station's crowded corridors, past alien species of every shape and size. Four-armed traders haggled over glowing crystals. Insectoid workers repaired wall panels. A group of reptilian soldiers laughed loudly near a food vendor. Docking Bay 7 was quieter. A sleek diplomatic vessel sat in the center, its silver hull reflecting the station's harsh lights. Standing beside the boarding ramp was a tall, elegant figure with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She wore flowing robes marked with the insignia of the Zalfine Empire. Captain Reeves? Her voice was soft, almost musical. That's me, Jake said, approaching cautiously. You're Ambassador Lyra? I am. She looked around nervously. Please, we should speak inside my ship. This matter requires discretion. Jake followed her up the ramp and into a small conference room. The interior was beautiful, with walls that seemed to shimmer with gentle light. Ambassador Lyra gestured for him to sit. I need your help, Captain, she began, her hands clasped tightly together. My younger sister has been taken. By who? The Krillus Syndicate. Lyra's voice trembled slightly. They are criminals who operate beyond the reach of any government. They took Princess Aelith 3 weeks ago while she was on a cultural exchange mission. I'm sorry to hear that, Jake said carefully, but kidnapping cases are tricky. Usually they want ransom money. Have they contacted you? Lyra's eyes glistened with unshed tears. They have. But they don't want money, Captain. They want entertainment. She activated a holographic display above the table. Images appeared showing a massive arena surrounded by thousands of screaming spectators. The Crimson Coliseum, Jake muttered, recognition dawning. Oh no. You know of it? It's a death arena. The Kryllos Syndicate forces captured beings to fight for the entertainment of the galaxy's worst criminals. They broadcast the matches across illegal networks. My sister is there, Lyra said quietly. They will force her to compete. She is a scholar, Captain, a poet and an artist. She has never even held a weapon. Jake ran a hand through his hair. Ambassador, I'm sorry, but arena extractions are nearly impossible. The Coliseum is a fortress. Security is extreme, and the fighters inside rarely survive more than 1 or 2 matches. I know the odds. Lyra stood and met his eyes. But you are human, Captain Reeves. I have studied your species. Humans have something that most species lack. You endure. You adapt. You survive situations that would kill others. Flattering, but I'm just one person. The Syndicate allows volunteer champions, Lyra explained. Beings who enter the arena of their own free will, seeking glory or fortune. If you entered as a volunteer, you could reach my sister. There are 10 trials. If a champion survives all 10, they earn their freedom and can claim 1 other prisoner to be released with them. Jake stared at the holographic arena. Has anyone ever survived all 10 trials? 3 beings in the Colosseum's 20-year history. That's a suicide mission. I am prepared to pay you 1 million galactic credits. Lyra's voice became stronger. Half now, half when you return with my sister. 1 million credits was enough to pay off every debt he had, enough to buy a better ship, enough to retire if he wanted. But it was also meaningless if he died in some arena. My sister has 7 solar cycles remaining, Lyra continued. After that, they will put her in the final execution match. She will die, Captain, unless someone helps her. Jake looked at the ambassador's desperate face. He thought about Princess Aelith, a scholar and poet trapped in a nightmare. He thought about the credits. Mostly, he thought about the fact that if he didn't try, no one else would. I'll need 3 days to prepare, Jake finally said. And I'll need detailed information about the arena, the trials, and any layouts you can get. Thank you, Captain. Thank you. I will transfer the first payment immediately and provide everything I have. Ig didn't. They shook hands, and Jake left the diplomatic vessel. As he walked back through the station toward his own ship, his AI companion Vera spoke through his earpiece. I have reviewed the Crimson Coliseum statistics, Captain. The survival rate for all participants is 0.003%. So you're saying there's a chance, Jake replied with a grim smile. I am saying you are statistically certain to die. Well, Vera, let's go prove some statistics wrong. 2 days later, Jake's ship approached the massive Kryllo station. The Crimson Coliseum dominated the center of the structure. Enormous domes surrounded by docking bays and entertainment districts. As his ship was guided to a landing pad, Jake watched a live broadcast on his view screen. A massive 4-armed warrior was fighting 3 mechanical beasts in the arena below. The crowd roared with bloodthirsty excitement. Jake watched as the warrior fought bravely, but the beasts overwhelmed him. The warrior fell, and the crowd cheered louder. Jake's hands tightened on the controls. What have I gotten myself into? A situation with a very low probability of survival, Vera answered helpfully. Thanks for the encouragement. He wore simple combat clothes and carried only basic equipment. Volunteers weren't allowed to bring weapons into the Coliseum. Everything would be provided during the trials. As he walked down the ramp, a slug-like alien with multiple eyes slithered forward. Welcome, volunteer. I am Registrar Blocks. You wish to enter the Coliseum? That's right, Jake said. A human! Blocks' eyes widened with delight. How wonderful. We've never had a human champion before. The crowds will love this. Tell me, human, do you understand the rules? Survive them all. Earn freedom and 1 prisoner release. Correct. And do you understand that you will very likely die? Jake looked toward the arena dome, somewhere inside which a terrified princess waited for salvation that might never come. I understand, he said. Let's get started. The holding cells beneath the Crimson Coliseum were cold and dark. Jake sat on a metal bench in his assigned cell, listening to the sounds of other champions preparing for their trials. Roars, clicks, hisses, and languages he couldn't understand echoed through the corridors. A guard had taken his personal belongings and given him a simple gray uniform. The fabric was rough against his skin. Through the energy barrier that sealed his cell, Jake could see other fighters in their own cells across the corridor. The champion in the cell directly opposite was massive. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with dark green scales covering his body. His reptilian eyes watched Jake with what might have been curiosity. You are small, the reptilian finally said in broken galactic common. Very small and soft. You will die quickly. Nice to meet you too, Jake replied. The reptilian made a sound that might have been laughter. I am Zirax of the Stone Plains. This is my 8th trial. I have survived more matches than most, but even I know my time will end soon. 8 trials. Jake stood up and approached the barrier. That's impressive. What's kept you alive? Strategy. And accepting that death comes for us all. Zax tilted his head. Why does a human volunteer for this place? Your species is not known for combat. I'm here to save someone, Jake said simply. Zrax's eyes widened slightly. Honor debt. I understand this. But tell me, human, what makes you think you can survive even 1 trial? Before Jake could answer, the energy barriers suddenly deactivated. Guards appeared, gesturing for the champions to follow. Move to the preparation chamber. Jake and about 20 other champions were herded into a large room with multiple viewing screens. Above them, on one enormous screen, the arena floor was visible. Thousands of spectators filled the seats, their excited chatter creating a deafening roar. A holographic figure appeared in the center of the preparation chamber. It was the slug-like creature Jake had met earlier, but now much larger and more intimidating. "Welcome, champions," the hologram boomed. "I am Arena Master Gordax, and I control your fate. Today, 3 of you will face your trials. 2 will fight beasts, and 1 lucky champion will attempt the maze of death." The screens showed different arena configurations. One showed a pit filled with dangerous-looking creatures. Another showed a jungle environment with something large moving in the shadows. "Our first match," Gordax continued, "features a special treat. We have our very first human champion. Let's see if this soft-skinned species can provide us with entertainment." Jake's stomach dropped. The other champions turned to stare at him, many with expressions that clearly said he was already dead. Guards grabbed Jake's arms and pulled him toward a lift. "Wait," Jake protested. "What's the trial? What am I facing?" "You will see," one guard laughed. The lift rose rapidly, and suddenly Jake was standing on a platform at the edge of the arena. The crowd's roar was overwhelming. Thousands of alien faces stared down at him, some cheering, others making sounds of disappointment. "Ladies and gentlemen of the galaxy," Gordax's voice boomed through speakers. "For our human's first trial, we present the zero-gravity death maze." The arena floor opened, revealing a massive 3-dimensional structure of floating platforms, walls, and corridors. As Jake watched, the entire structure began rotating slowly. Red lights marked certain sections, probably indicating danger zones. "The rules are simple," Gordax explained. "Reach the center platform and claim the victory crystal. But beware, the maze is filled with plasma mines and hunter drones. You have no weapons. You have 15 minutes. Begin." The platform beneath Jake's feet disappeared. He fell into the maze's entrance, suddenly weightless. Jake tumbled through the air, completely disoriented. The crowd laughed at his flailing, but Jake forced himself to stop panicking. He had trained in zero-gravity environments before, during his military service years ago. It was uncomfortable, but he knew the basics. He grabbed onto a wall and steadied himself. A plasma mine drifted past, its red core pulsing. Jake carefully pushed away from the wall, using small movements to navigate. Other species might have superior strength or armor, but humans had something useful here: excellent spatial reasoning and the ability to think in 3 dimensions. He moved through the maze methodically, watching the patterns of the mines. They moved in predictable paths. The hunter drones were more challenging. They were small spheres with scanning beams that searched for movement. Jake spotted one drone ahead. He waited behind a floating platform until it passed, then quickly propelled himself forward. The crowd gasped as he narrowly avoided its scanning beam. He was making progress, but time was running out. Jake could see the center platform ahead, glowing with blue light. The victory crystal sat on a pedestal in the middle. But between him and the crystal were at least 10 drones and dozens of plasma mines. There was no clear path through. Jake noticed something the arena designers probably didn't think about. The drones were programmed to search for living beings, but they moved in response to the maze's rotation. If he could time his movement with the rotation, he might create a gap. He waited, counting the seconds. The maze rotated. The drones shifted position. Now, Jake launched himself forward, pushing off with all his strength. He flew through the gap between 2 drones, twisted to avoid a plasma mine, and grabbed onto the center platform's edge. The crowd erupted in shocked cheers. Many had bet against him surviving even 5 minutes. Jake pulled himself onto the platform and grabbed the crystal. "Trial complete," Gordax announced, sounding surprised. "The human survives. Remarkable." But Jake wasn't done. He had noticed something during his flight through the maze. One of the damaged drones had exposed wiring. He pushed off the platform and grabbed the drone before the guards could stop him. Working quickly, he tore out a metal rod and some circuit components. "What is he doing?" Gordax's voice sounded confused. Jake created a makeshift weapon, a simple electric prod using the drone's power cell. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. The guards would probably take it away, but he wanted to send a message. Humans could adapt and improvise. Back in the holding cells, the other champions looked at him differently. Rax nodded with what might have been respect. "You think 3 steps ahead?" the reptilian said. "Perhaps you will survive longer than I expected." A new prisoner was being brought into the cell area. Jake's heart jumped. It was a young female with pale blue skin, wearing torn diplomatic robes. Princess Alith. She was placed in a cell far down the corridor, surrounded by extra guards. She looked terrified and exhausted. When her eyes met Jake's across the distance, he saw a flicker of desperate hope. Jake made a subtle gesture, a small nod. "Hold on, I'm here for you." The princess's eyes widened slightly. She couldn't know who he was or why he was there, but perhaps she sensed he was different from the other fighters. That night, Jake lay on his cell's bench and reviewed what he had learned. The arena had patterns. The trials could be analyzed and understood, and most importantly, Princess Alith was alive and relatively unharmed. "Second trial in 2 days," a guard announced while delivering food. "Against the Venom Claw. No one has beaten it in under 10 minutes. 2 days to prepare mentally. 2 days to observe and learn. He would face this Venom Claw creature, and he would win. Because somewhere in this horrible place, a princess was counting on him. And Jake Reeves didn't break his promises. The arena's night lights dimmed, and Jake began planning for the next trial. 2 days passed slowly in the holding cells. Jake spent every moment observing and learning. He watched other champions fight on the viewing screens. He studied their tactics, their mistakes, and how the arena's hazards worked. On the morning of his second trial, Jake was eating a tasteless protein bar when Zrax approached his cell. "Human," the reptilian said quietly. "I have watched many fighters come and go. Most die because they fight with only strength. But you think differently. This is good. What can you tell me about the Venom Claw?" Jake asked. Rax's expression darkened. "It is a predator from the poison worlds. Fast, deadly, and its claws carry venom that paralyzes within seconds. The arena for this trial is designed to collapse slowly. Platforms fall away. You must defeat the creature before the ground beneath you disappears. Any weaknesses? Its underbelly has softer scales, but getting close enough to strike there means risking the venom." Zrax paused. "The creature is also attracted to movement. The more you run, the more aggressive it becomes." Jake nodded, absorbing the information. "Thank you. Survive this, human. I am curious to see how far you can go." Hours later, Jake stood in the preparation chamber again. More champions had gathered to watch his trial. Some looked amused, others genuinely interested. Fighting a Venom Claw was considered one of the hardest trials. The lift carried him up to the arena. The crowd's roar washed over him like a physical force. This time, the arena floor was configured as a series of circular platforms at different heights, connected by narrow bridges. "Today's trial is special," Gordax's voice boomed. "Our human survivor faces the mighty Venom Claw. Watch as those platforms fall away, one by one. Will he survive, or will he fall into the pit below?" A gate opened on the opposite side of the arena. The Venom Claw emerged, and Jake understood immediately why it was feared. The creature was the size of a large bear, covered in dark purple scales. Its 6 legs moved with disturbing grace, and the claws on its front limbs dripped with glowing green venom. The creature's eyes locked onto Jake. It hissed, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth. "Begin!" Gordak shouted. The Venom Claw charged across the bridges with terrifying speed. Jake dove to the side as the creature's claws slashed through the space where he had been standing. Drops of venom hit the platform, sizzling and eating through the metal. Jake rolled to his feet and ran across a bridge to another platform. Behind him, he heard a grinding sound. The platform he had just left began to fall away, tumbling into the darkness below. The crowd cheered. They loved the drama of the collapsing arena. Jake's mind raced. He couldn't just keep running. The platforms were disappearing too quickly, but Trax had said the creature was attracted to movement. What if he used that? The Venom Claw pursued him across another bridge. Jake deliberately slowed down, letting the creature get closer. At the last second, he dropped flat on the bridge. The Venom Claw's momentum carried it forward, unable to stop. It stumbled past him, nearly falling off the edge. Jake scrambled to his feet and moved to a higher platform. He needed to change his strategy. Running would get him killed. But what advantage did he have? Then it hit him. Endurance. The Venom Claw was a predator built for quick strikes, not prolonged hunts. But humans. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Jake's ancestors had chased prey for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Jake began moving constantly, but at a steady pace, not running in panic, just keeping a sustainable speed. He circled around platforms, crossed bridges, always staying just out of reach. The Venom Claw attacked again and again, each time expending enormous energy in its charges. Jake dodged, using minimal movement. He let the creature waste its strength. 10 minutes passed, 15, 20. The crowd grew quieter, confused by the strange dance happening in the arena. This wasn't the quick, brutal fight they expected. Jake noticed the Venom Claw's movements were slowing. Its breathing had become labored. The creature was designed for short, explosive attacks, not this constant pursuit. More platforms fell away. The arena was shrinking. Soon there would be nowhere left to run, but Jake wasn't running anymore. He was hunting. When the Venom Claw charged again, it was noticeably slower. Jake waited until the last possible moment, then used the creature's own momentum against it. He grabbed one of its middle legs as it passed and pulled hard, redirecting its charge toward the edge of a platform. The Venom Claw tried to stop, but it was too tired. It slid toward the edge, claws scraping against metal. At the last second, it caught itself hanging halfway off the platform. Jake saw his opportunity. The creature's soft underbelly was exposed. He grabbed a piece of broken metal from a collapsed platform and drove it upward with all his strength. The Venom Claw screamed. Its grip loosened, and it fell into the darkness below. Silence filled the arena for a heartbeat. Then the crowd erupted into shocked cheers. Incredible! Gordax's voice was filled with genuine surprise. The human defeats the Venom Claw using endurance and patience, a strategy we have never seen before. Jake stood on the remaining platform, breathing hard but still standing. He had won not through superior strength or speed, but through his very human ability to outlast his opponent. Back in the holding cells, the atmosphere had changed. Champions who had mocked him before now watched with wary respect. A human had just done something many considered impossible. Zrax greeted him with a slow nod. "You are full of surprises, human." Another champion, an insectoid female with sharp mandibles, approached. "I am Kessa. I have survived 4 trials. Your method is unusual but effective. Perhaps there is wisdom in it." "We all want to survive," Jake said. "Maybe we can help each other." Kessa clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "The Syndicate does not encourage cooperation, but they cannot stop us from talking. What is your goal here, human?" Jake glanced down the corridor toward where Princess Aelith was held. "I'm here to save someone. After that, I'm getting out." "No one gets out," Kessa said flatly. "Then, I'll be the first." Over the next few days, Jake faced his 3rd and 4th trials. The 3rd trial placed him against 3 opponents simultaneously in a stone arena. Instead of fighting them all at once, Jake used the environment. He collapsed pillars to separate them, then faced each one individually. His opponents were stronger in short bursts, but Jake's endurance let him outlast each one. The 4th trial was environmental. Jake was placed in a chamber that grew hotter and hotter. Most species would have died within minutes from overheating. But humans had a unique advantage. They could sweat. Jake's body regulated its temperature through evaporation, something most alien species couldn't do. He survived the trial by staying calm and letting his body's natural cooling system work. The galaxy was starting to notice. News feeds across civilized space carried stories about the human in the Crimson Colosseum. Betting odds shifted dramatically. Humans, once dismissed as weak, were suddenly fascinating. After his 4th victory, Jake was given a rare privilege. As a champion who had survived multiple trials, he was allowed to walk in the observation corridor where prisoners could see the arena. That's when he finally got close to Princess Aelith. She stood at a viewing window, watching the arena floor being reconfigured for the next day's matches. Guards flanked her on both sides, but Jake managed to walk past, pausing briefly. "Stay strong," he whispered, barely audible. "I'm getting you out." She started to turn toward him, but Jake kept walking, not wanting to draw attention. But she had heard him, and for the first time since her capture, Princess Alith allowed herself to hope. That night, Zrak shared crucial information. In Trial 7, they will use the lower arena. There are maintenance tunnels beneath it. If you can reach that trial, you might find a way to the prisoner cells. Then I guess I'd better make sure I survive Trials 5 and 6. 3 more trials stood between him and a chance to free the princess. 3 more chances to die. But Jake had proven something important. Humans might not be the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy. They were simply the hardest to kill. Jake's 5th trial was unlike anything he had faced before. The arena was empty except for a single chair in the center. When Jake sat down, as instructed, gas began filling the chamber. "This trial tests the mind," Gordax announced. "The gas creates illusions based on your deepest fears. Most champions go insane within minutes, survive for 1 hour to win." The gas was thick and purple. Jake felt it entering his lungs, and soon the arena began to shift. The walls melted away, replaced by scenes from his past. He saw his fallen comrades from old battles. He heard voices of people he had failed to save. The crowd watched on screens as Jake's face showed strain. Many champions simply screamed and collapsed when facing this trial. But Jake had experience with fear. Years of combat had taught him to recognize when his mind was being manipulated. "Not real," he whispered to himself. "Just chemicals. Just gas." He focused on his breathing, on the physical sensations of his body. When the illusion showed him Princess Alith being executed, he closed his eyes and counted backwards from 100. When the vision showed his ship exploding, he recited old military codes in his mind. The human ability to compartmentalize, to separate emotion from logic, kept him grounded. An hour felt like days, but when the gas finally cleared, Jake was still sitting in the chair, exhausted, shaking, but alive. The crowd erupted. 5 trials survived. Jake was now in elite territory. "Remarkable." Gordax's voice carried genuine admiration. "The human's mental fortitude is impressive." But now, dear audience, we have a special announcement. Jake's blood ran cold at those words. Special announcements were never good. For Trial 6, we will make things more interesting. Princess Alith of the Zalfine Empire will watch the match from inside the arena. If our human champion dies, the princess dies immediately after. The screens showed Princess Alith being brought to a reinforced cage at the arena's edge. She looked terrified, but held her head high with dignity. Jake felt rage burning in his chest, but he forced it down. Anger would make him careless. He needed to think clearly. The next day, Jake stood in the arena facing his 6th trial. Princess Alith watched from her cage 20 meters away. The floor was metal plating covered in glowing circuits. His opponent entered from the opposite gate. It was a massive warrior, 9 feet tall, covered in cybernetic enhancements. Half of its body was machine, with hydraulic limbs and armor plating. "This is Krax the Destroyer," Gordax announced. "Enhanced with military-grade technology. And the arena floor? It electrifies at random intervals. Can our human survive both threats?" Krax charged forward with mechanical speed. Jake barely dodged as a metal fist slammed into the ground where he had stood. Cracks appeared in the floor plating. Then the floor lit up. Electric current surged through entire sections. Jake jumped to a safe zone, his heart pounding. The floor pattern seemed random, but there had to be logic to it. Cracks attacked again. The cyborg was powerful but predictable, relying on brute force. Jake kept moving, watching the floor patterns carefully. Then he noticed something. The floor sections that electrified were those that had been damaged or stepped on repeatedly. The arena systems were trying to stop movement in certain areas. An idea formed, a crazy, desperate idea. Jake stopped running. Instead, he moved toward Cracks, dodging under a swing and positioning himself near the cyborg. "Cracks," Jake shouted. "You know you're a slave, right? Just like me." Just like her, he pointed at Princess Elith. We're all entertainment for these criminals. Krax paused, confused. No champion had ever tried talking during a fight. We don't have to kill each other, Jake continued, dodging another half-hearted swing. We can work together, survive this together. They want a show? Let's give them one while we figure out how to beat this floor. This wasn't normal arena behavior. Krax's mechanical eye focused on Jake. What are you suggesting, human? Fight me, but not to kill. Make it look real. Watch each other's backs when the floor electrifies. We both survive. We both advance. For a long moment, Krax stared at him. Then something changed in the cyborg's expression. A flicker of something that might have been hope. The Syndicate will be angry, Krax said. Let them be angry. What can they do? Kill us? They'll do that anyway, eventually. Rax made a sound that might have been laughter. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Very well. Let us try your way. What followed was the strangest match the Crimson Coliseum had ever seen. Jake and Krax fought, their battle looking fierce and dramatic, but they were coordinating, warning each other when floor sections were about to electrify, creating a performance rather than a true fight. The crowd was mesmerized. The match lasted longer than expected, filled with dramatic near misses and spectacular moves. When the time limit expired, both fighters were still standing. Gordax was furious, but couldn't execute them without causing a riot. The crowd loved it. They wanted both fighters to continue. Unprecedented, Gordax finally announced through gritted teeth. Both champions survive. They will both advance to the next trial. Back in the holding cells that night, something had changed. Other champions had watched what Jake did. They had seen two fighters cooperate and both survive. Zarax approached Jake's cell with several other champions behind him. You have shown us something important, human, the reptilian said. We have been fighting as individuals, playing by their rules, but perhaps there is another way. What are you thinking? Jake asked. Trial 7, the lower arena. You said you need to reach the prisoner cells. We can help. An insectoid warrior stepped forward. Many of us have nothing to lose. We are already dead, but perhaps we can die doing something meaningful. Jake felt a surge of hope mixed with guilt. He hadn't meant to start a rebellion. He just wanted to save one person. But looking at the faces of these fighters, he saw the same thing he had seen in Princess Eilith's eyes. Hope. Trial 7 is tomorrow, Rax continued. They will force me to fight you, human. It is my final trial. I am old and tired. Let us make a plan together. That night, Jake, Zrax, and several other champions whispered through the cells, forming a strategy. It was risky and probably impossible, but it was a chance. The next morning, Jake stood across from Zrax in the lower arena. The floor here was older, with visible maintenance hatches. Princess Aelith watched from a viewing platform above, surrounded by guards. Begin, Gordax commanded. Jake and Zrax began their fight, but this time with a purpose. They fought toward specific locations, toward the maintenance hatches Jake had spotted. Their battle looked fierce, but they were working together. When Jake delivered what looked like a final strike, Zrax fell dramatically near a hatch. Jake stood over him, raising his arms in victory. The crowd roared, but in the noise and chaos, no one noticed Jake's hand moving to the hatch release. No one saw Zerk's eye open slightly, confirming he was alive and ready. That night, Jake slipped through the maintenance tunnels. He had memorized the path from blueprints Rax had described. The tunnels were dark and cramped, but they led to the prisoner section. He found Princess Aelith's cell. She was sleeping, but woke when he approached. Who are you? She whispered. My name is Jake Reeves. Your sister sent me. We're getting you out of here. Princess Aelith's eyes filled with tears. It's impossible. The security alarms suddenly blared. They had been discovered. From the shadows, Zrax appeared, very much alive. Behind him were Kessa, Krax, and a dozen other fighters. Surprise, human, Zrax said with a grin. Did you think we would let you have all the fun? Jake smiled despite the danger. Glad you could make it. Ready to start a revolution? We have been ready for years, Krax said, his mechanical fist clenching. We just needed someone to show us it was possible. The security forces were coming, but for the first time, the champions of the Crimson Colosseum were fighting together. And they were fighting for freedom. The maintenance tunnels erupted into chaos. Security forces poured in from both directions, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Jake pulled Princess Aelith behind him as Zrax and the other fighters formed a defensive line. "This way!" Kessa shouted, her insectoid senses detecting a path through the maze of corridors. "The main elevator shaft leads to the hangar level." The group moved as one unit, something the Syndicate had never expected. Jake coordinated their movements, using each fighter's unique abilities. Rax's strength cleared blocked passages. Kessa's ability to climb walls let her scout ahead. Krax's cybernetic systems hacked security doors. "They are working together," a panicked security officer radioed. "The prisoners are cooperating. Send reinforcements." But Jake had learned something important during his trials. Every species in the arena had different strengths. Alone, they were just entertainment. Together, they were unstoppable. The group fought through 3 security checkpoints. Princess Aelith stayed close to Jake, her fear gradually transforming into determination. She had spent weeks as a helpless prisoner. Now, she was part of an escape. "The hangar is 2 levels up," Krax announced, his sensors reading the station layout. "But Gordax has activated the emergency lockdown. All exits are sealed." Jake's mind raced. They needed another option. What about the arena itself? Can we reach it from here? Yes, but why would we go back there? Because the arena has the weakest hull sections, Jake explained. It's designed for spectacle, not security. If we can reach the control room, we can override the lockdown and open the arena dome. "That's insane," Kessa said. "The entire station will decompress. Not if we time it right. We get to the hangar first, steal ships, then blow the arena dome on our way out. The chaos will cover our escape." Princess Aelith touched Jake's arm. "There are innocent workers on this station, maintenance staff, vendors. We cannot kill them." Jake met her eyes and nodded. "You're right, Kessa. Can you access the station-wide communication system?" The insectoid's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "If we reach a terminal, yes." They fought their way to a communications hub. While the others held off security forces, Kessa worked at the terminal. Finally, her voice echoed through every speaker on the station. "Attention, all non-combatants. This is an emergency evacuation order. All workers and civilians proceed immediately to emergency pods. The arena dome will be breached in 15 minutes. This is not a drill." Across the station, confused workers and vendors began evacuating. The Syndicate's security forces were suddenly torn between stopping the prisoners and managing the evacuation. "Clever, human," Zrax said with approval. "You fight with honor." The group pushed toward the hangar. More fighters joined them along the way. Prisoners who had heard the commotion and broken free in the confusion. Their numbers grew to over 30, but then the corridor ahead exploded. A massive shape emerged through the smoke and debris. It was a mechanical beast, 12 feet tall, with multiple weapon systems and armor plating. The Harvester, the arena's ultimate weapon, used only when multiple champions needed to be eliminated. "Fall back," Jake shouted. The Harvester fired, its weapons tearing through the corridor. 2 fighters fell before they could retreat. The mechanical monster advanced slowly, unstoppable. "No weapon can penetrate its armor," Krax shouted. "I have seen it destroy entire squads." It was powerful, but it moved like a machine, following programmed patterns. And machines had weaknesses. "Listen to me," Jake called to the fighters. "We can't beat it alone, but together we can. Rax, Krax, you 2 are the strongest. Aim for its leg joints. Kessa, take the flyers and hit its sensor arrays. Everyone else, distraction and support." The fighters hesitated. They had never worked as a coordinated team before. "Trust me," Jake urged. "We've already done the impossible. Let's do it one more time." Something in his voice convinced them. The fighters split into groups, each with a specific task. It wasn't military precision, but it was cooperation, and that was something the Harvester wasn't programmed to handle. The battle was fierce. Racks and cracks attacked the legs, using their combined strength to damage the hydraulic systems. Flying species attacked from above, covering the harvester's sensors with debris and chemical foam. Other fighters kept it distracted, preventing it from focusing on any single target. Jake coordinated everything, shouting instructions and adapting the plan as the fight progressed. The human ability to think tactically and inspire others was making the difference. Slowly, the harvester began to falter. Its movements became jerky. Sparks flew from damaged joints. When Cracks delivered a powerful strike to its central processing unit, the mechanical beast finally collapsed. The fighters cheered, but Jake kept them moving. No time to celebrate. To the hangar. They reached the hangar to find it heavily defended, but the security forces were demoralized. They had seen prisoners cooperate, defeat the harvester, and survive what should have been impossible. Some guards simply dropped their weapons and fled. The fighters spread out, securing ships. Princess Aelith stayed close to Jake as they approached a sleek diplomatic vessel. Suddenly, Gordax appeared, blocking their path. The slug-like arena master held a weapon, his multiple eyes filled with rage. "You have ruined everything, human," Gordax screamed. "Years a prophet, the greatest arena in the galaxy. I will kill you myself." He raised his weapon, aiming at Jake's heart. Princess Aelith stepped forward. "No, this ends now." Her voice was calm but carried absolute authority. Despite weeks of imprisonment, she was still royalty, still a princess who had been trained in diplomacy and leadership. "You have tortured and killed thousands," she said to Gordax. "You have created suffering for profit. Your arena was built on the pain of innocence. I am Princess Aelith of the Zalthane Empire, and I promise you that every government in civilized space will hear of your crimes." "You think anyone cares? The Syndicate is beyond your laws." "Maybe," Jake said, stepping beside the princess. "But the galaxy is watching now. Every newsfeed picked up the story of the human in the arena. They know what happens here. They know about you." Gordax's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The story had spread too far. There would be no hiding anymore. Zrax approached from behind and disarmed Gordax with one swift motion. "Your reign ends today." The fighters began launching their stolen ships. Jake guided Princess Aelith onto the diplomatic vessel. Rax, Kessa, Cracks, and several others joined them. "What about the arena dome?" Kessa asked. Jake moved to the ship's weapons console. "I haven't forgotten." As the ships lifted off and cleared the hangar, Jake targeted the arena's structural supports. One precise shot, and the massive dome began to crack. Atmosphere rushed out in a controlled decompression, creating chaos, but not the catastrophic explosion that would have endangered the civilian sections. The Crimson Colosseum, symbol of the Syndicate's power, was broken. The ships scattered into different hyperspace routes, making pursuit impossible. On Jake's vessel, the escaped fighters celebrated their freedom. Princess Aelith sat beside Jake in the cockpit. "You saved my life. More than that, you freed all of them." "I just showed them it was possible," Jake said. "They saved themselves. My sister will want to reward you properly." Jake thought about the credits, the original payment that seemed so important weeks ago. Now it felt less significant compared to what they had accomplished. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the Zalthine Empire's royal palace. Ambassador Lyra embraced her sister with tears of joy. Princess Aelith had returned home, forever changed by her experience. The payment was transferred to Jake's account. Enough to clear his debts and buy a new ship. But more importantly, he had made allies across the galaxy. Zrak, Kessa, Cracks, and the other fighters had gone their separate ways, but they remained in contact. A network of beings who had learned the power of cooperation. News reports confirmed that arena fighting rings across 3 sectors had mysteriously shut down. Word of the Colosseum Rebellion had spread, inspiring others to resist. The Syndicate's power was weakening. Princess Aelith visited Jake before his departure. "What will you do now, Captain Reeves?" Jake looked at his new ship, thinking about the contracts waiting in his database. But he also thought about what he had learned in the arena. "Maybe I'll take contracts that matter," he said. "Places where someone needs help." situations where cooperation can make a difference. Princess Aelith smiled. The galaxy learned something important from you. Humans may not be the strongest or the fastest species, but you endure, you adapt, and most importantly, you inspire others to work together. Jake boarded his ship, and as he lifted off from the royal palace, he couldn't help but smile. He had entered that arena as one person trying to save another. He left, having shown the entire galaxy that unity was stronger than individual power, that persistence could overcome impossible odds, and that sometimes the greatest strength was simply refusing to give up. The stars stretched before him, full of possibilities, and Captain Jake Reeves was ready for whatever came next.